Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Sunshine State Rails and the Florida Railroad Museum. I am now bringing you our next Florida Railroad Museum update video, and that can partially explain why over the past few months or so that I haven't really been as active on YouTube as I may have been in the past couple of years. I've been around here for most of my time over the past, really this year. So that being said, most of my time is being spent out here, so I haven't really had time, nor will I have a lot of time going forward to make my typical railroading videos that y'all may be used to. So I am actually hoping that going forward I can kind of shift my content more towards the Florida Railroad Museum and what we're doing out here, because I will now be able to give you first-hand updates on track and restoration projects, such as kind of what I hope to accomplish with this video. I'm going to take you all along this week on our most recent track rehabilitation that is going on at the museum. At this point in time, our entire right-of-way from Willow to Parrish is undergoing extreme maintenance and basically a complete rehabilitation. So today is Tuesday, June 20th, 2023, and for the rest of this week, I'm going to take y'all along with me so y'all can see firsthand what we're getting done out there, along with some other little updates of what's going on around the shop and other areas that y'all might be interested in seeing at the Florida Railroad Museum. So real quick, I'm going to hop on our tie inserter and I'm going to take y'all down to the area that we're working at currently to show you what's been done so far this week and what we have planned to get done for the rest of the week. But first, I'm going to take y'all into the shop and give you a couple updates on some projects that are on hold but still progressing over there. Most notably, the project that some of y'all may have only clicked on this video to see, the 8330. How's she coming along? Well, we were on hold with it for a little while because we needed new batteries for it and they hadn't yet arrived. We needed to order new engine batteries because the ones that were currently inside had died long ago. So we had to get new ones. So when those finally arrived, we got oil in the engine and we started it up. So the 8330 has come back to life, it has idled, and the engine has ran, though we haven't been able to do any trial runs with it just yet because we're still facing some electrical and air compressor issues. The electrical issues I'm not really going to get into, but the air compressor just seems to be very slow to build up air in the chamber, so we're trying to still figure out whether it's an issue with the air compressor or something else. But before we were able to delve into those issues any further, this track project came up, and we came to find that we would literally need everybody available to get this done and keep up with American Track, who's the contractor helping us with this project, which I'll get into momentarily. But the 8330 seems to be looking bright, though it's on hold for now, again, until this project is done, because we literally have no spare time to put into this or, frankly, anything else right now. And that makes 8330 really the only big project in the shop right now, which is on hold anyway. We have the gondola way back there, the red gondola, the 91982 in the back. We got to get the brake shoes changed out on that. That's nothing big, but until we get that done, it's not on the train. The 1204 dining car is on the right here. We're putting some blinds in it to keep the furnishings nice in there so the sun doesn't bleed them out or anything. So it's a really nice car inside. I don't know if y'all have ever ridden the 1204, the interior of that is pristine. It's probably one of the nicest cars we have on our fleet. But that's a topic for another video. But that's about all that's going on back in the shop. So we're going to go ahead, hop on tie inserter, and I'm going to take y'all down and show you what's been done on track this week. So this will be our ride down to our maintenance site. Our CJ Bridges tie inserter, we'll have to take it off the compressor cart there so we can get it down to the area we're working. That and our tie crane are the two machines that are really saving us here and getting this project done. And here's all the new ties that we are ultimately putting in on this project. This is what we have on site, and we have another 750 on the way because we are going to need every single one.
Those
Just south of our Willow yard, we have our runaround track, which is where the American Track team is staging their tamper machine, which is what they're using to rehab our track. And so that said, let me walk through with you how that machine works and what's prompted us to follow them with our equipment and have all hands on deck for this project. A tamper is a maintenance machine designed to level out railroad track. And they do this by means of multiple sets of forks on each side of the machine that vibrate and dig into the ground around individual railroad ties to squeeze and push material underneath the wood. By squeezing and pushing this material around the wooden timber, they're able to effectively raise the track up ever so slightly so that it is all one level. And the operator is able to tell how to level the track by means of a small cart that they push in front of the machine. Mounted on this cart are 2 red lasers, and on the tamper itself are a set of metal sheets called bat wings. Depending on how these lasers reflect back onto those bat wings, tell the operator in front of them where the track is low. Now, in the process of tamping, like I've mentioned, the track is ever so slightly raised. And the issue that we would ultimately face surrounding this is that we ended up having so many instances of rotten and corroded railroad ties that as material was squeezed around them, they just simply fell apart. And to have effective tamping and a proper railroad track structure, you need good railroad ties. And so we would now have to stay in front of them, replacing as many ties as we could in a day to make sure that when our track was tamped, it would go right. Because otherwise the tamping would be in many places ineffective and a waste of time and money as a result. So, with that all said, let me go ahead and show you before we get down to our maintenance area what changing a tie looks like. First, we will manually remove the railroad spikes that fasten the rail to the tie plate and the tie itself. This allows the tie to slide out when we pull the inserter in, gripping the tie at the end and then simply yanking it out to one side. Once the entire tie is pulled out, this is basically what we deem as a crap tie. So, as we ultimately do many ties at a time, we'll make a pile of crap ties that I can come in with later and pick up with the tie crane to take back to the crap tie pile. In the process of removing the old tie from the area, we'll take the old tie plates that sat beneath the old tie and set them off to the side, because they will be reused once we put the new tie in. Which is, after that, the next step. We'll bring the new tie in with the tie inserter and simply slide it back under the track, being mindful of the angle at which it goes back in. The tie inserter is also able to grip the track itself and lift it on a jack so we can slide the new tie under in places that the track is uneven, and so that we can lift the rails up to put the tie plates back under the rails. There are many different types of tie plates that will go in at different places depending on if there is a rail joint or not, and these all have different holes that the railroad spikes will go into to fasten the rail down to the railroad tie. Once the new tie is in and plated, we will then come up behind with brand new railroad spikes and drive them through the tie plates and into the wood by hand. Though only just enough that they sit firmly in the wood itself, because we will then come up behind with the air compressor cart that we hook to a jackhammer that we will then use to drive the spikes all the way in. And the amount of spikes a tie will ultimately receive to hold it down is all dependent on the conditions that surround the area that it's in. And that's essentially how you install a new railroad tie here on our main line. But keep in mind, the process I've just shown you is just one railroad tie. With ties on center throughout our main line every 18 inches across 6.5 miles of main line, that's over 22,000 railroad ties total that support our trains every week. So you can only imagine just how much work is going to have to be put in on this rehabilitation to make our track look and run as good as it did back in the Seaboard days. So fellas, this right about here is where we hit yesterday. Very early Monday morning, I came out here and picked up all of the crap ties, as we call them, and took them back to Willow from the point where all of these stop, basically back up to the curve. That was as many as I could pick up before the sun came up and we had to get to work down here. So from that point, basically all the way down through this is what we did yesterday, up until the new ties start down there, and you can see because they're a lot darker. And here you can see how many instances of new ties you have as examples. Like, here's 3 in a row that we did yesterday. And just to give y'all a bit of an idea, we have been working on this project now for probably 3 or 4 weeks. We are coming up upon our first mile. That's what I mean when I say the first 6th, because we have 6 miles of track to do, and we are just barely. Later today, I have to drop more new ties beyond that set of new ones you see down there that will hopefully get us to the next mile marker. But it has gotten to the point that we have decided upon doing a day and a night crew. I'm on the day crew, and there's 2 guys on the night crew. So the way we do this is, we will come out during the day, and using the process that I showed you on how we change ties, I and 2 other guys will come out here during the day. We will take the old spikes out of the ties, pull the old ties out, put the new ties in, and put the tie plates back under the rails. And we'll do that for as many ties as we can in the day. And then the night crew will come out after us, and they will actually put the spikes in. And so that way we've been able to make a lot more progress a lot faster, because we can't really hold up the guys at American Track that much. And with the exception of what this machine and the crane are able to do, the rest is still all back-breaking labor. But we do what we gotta do, and we get it done. And I will tell you that what we have done so far, just looking at the alignment of it, is fantastic. Like, this project is really gonna rehabilitate our track and make a huge difference. But we're gonna pay the price for it as we go, because it is a lot of work to get done. That all said, it is Tuesday, and I'm gonna have y'all following along with me as best I can for the rest of this week, so I can show y'all what we're doing and how it's progressing. But with that also said, it's about 8:30 now, and I gotta get back on the crane, because I gotta get some new ties down here to try to make it to that mile marker. Because we gotta have as many available as we can to put in, because they are definitely all going in this week. So as soon as I got back, I'd hop on the crane and start loading ties. Here in Willow is where we stage all of the new railroad ties that we receive from over the road. And once we cut each respective bundle open, we're able to start loading them as best we can with the crane onto the cart, so we can take them down the track to wherever we need them to be put in, which on this project is going to be just about everywhere. Once I had the cart loaded, I'd head down the tracks and start dropping these new ties where we had marks for them, but eventually I'd run into a small mechanical issue that I'd have to come and fix. And well, I must have jinxed it with the let's find out whole deal earlier this morning. I loaded up all these ties, as you saw, and then I'd make my way down to where I was dropping, only to find out that one of the hoses for the hydraulic fluid on the clamp busted. So I got to come back here, and I found a replacement hose in the shop that I was able to put back in the clamp. So we should be good to go now. So, may be noon, but let's see if we can get some of these ties down. So gradually headed down the hill, I'd start dropping off railroad ties at every spot that we put a spray paint mark indicating that that was a tie that was to be replaced once we came through with the tie inserter. And I will admit that this time-lapse video makes the process look a lot easier and much more seamless than it actually is. There ultimately comes a lot of dropping and repositioning with a process like this to make sure that the timbers are all lined up and straight for when we come in to install them later. Alright, well, Grayson and the team is here with the tie inserter, and now we're putting new ties in. Goal is to try and get another 50 in today, even though we are very short on time, but we're just going to hit it hard and see what we can do. And hopefully we'll meet the goal, and I guess I'll update you at the end of the day, because I got to join the force here pretty shortly. So, about an hour into our work, taking a bit of a break here, and I figured I'd turn the camera back on because I can show you guys now, as I've stumbled across a few, that these are a few perfect examples of what happens when you try to tamp around a rotten or corroded tie. Here's another example that's not quite so bad. It's still split down the middle in multiple places and is falling apart, but it hasn't warped in over itself. And this one, you'd be generous to even call it a railroad tie at this point. Here's another example as we're pulling right now. We got the spikes coming out with the pullers, and there's not even a plate to see there anymore. If the structure in the wood isn't there, it just comes right apart. I'll admit I'm very surprised to see ties like this, because fun fact, if you guys never knew this, you come along our railroad and you find ties like this that have almost through the rails. You can see how it's kind of elevated there in the center around the rails and on the outside. Those are original ties, as in these ties were here when there were steam engines running on this track, when the lumber mill in Willow was still in business. These ties, well over 100 years old. And they're still here because, like the old adage, they just don't make things the way they used to. And some of them are actually still in pretty decent shape, like this one here. Didn't even come apart, didn't even really flinch with the tamper going around it. Here's a couple more examples in a row of those original ties that were also pretty unscathed by the tamper. But then you've got a tie like this one that's actually not that old in the grand scheme of things, and it has split right at the railhead. And another part about this that at least I found really interesting is that if you ever become a part of a maintenance crew like this, track maintenance is its own art. There's a process and technique to everything you do out here, and there's a reason behind all of it. From the technique in which you use to pull spikes, to the pattern that spikes go in to differing plate styles, and for what reasons they do so. Like say right here there's a rail joint. So these plates are often designed differently so that spikes can go into them in different patterns in order to compensate for different stresses that the rail will face beneath the weight of a train and the Florida sun as it expands and contracts. Thus, being very light, 75-pound jointed rail, it makes our operations and maintenance techniques a lot different from what you would find today on most any railroad. And I'm glad that I'm kind of able to take you guys along as we go through the motions of bringing this track back to life, frankly putting new life into this track. At least as Grayson's put it a million times, by the time we're done here, it's gonna be like the old seaboard again. And I'm looking forward to it as much as just about everybody else is, but track ain't gonna fix itself, so I'll talk to y'all at the end of the day. Alrighty folks, it is just before 6 o'clock and we have gotten off the track, tied all the equipment down. And how many ties did we do today? Well, we did 49. Just one short of what we were hoping to do, but that's basically 50. So, for what we had going against us today, that was actually pretty good. Got 49 in, so we put the ties in, got the old ones out, put the plates underneath, and now, in about an hour, the other guys are gonna show up for the night shift. They're gonna go down and put the spikes into the ties that we put under the rails today. And that's gonna be the process until we get to Parrish. We got a lot to go, so I got a few more things I gotta get done before I leave the property today, but as for the track project, that's about all there is to currently see. So, until tomorrow, I'll see you guys then. Well, not quite where I expected myself to be, but good morning everybody. Coming back to you on Wednesday from our back shop at 6:25 a.m. I would be out on a track with a crane right now. I had plans to go down south and pick up all those old crap ties sitting off to the side so we could get as much of them cleared before we regulate on Thursday. However, it kind of rained a lot. Thunderstorm, torrential, and then the gas generator that we use to power all the lights on our equipment, such as the air compressor cart and the floodlight on the crane, wouldn't start. And in the process, I got totally drenched. So, for the rest of the morning, while lightning strikes right outside the container, I'm just going to seek refuge in here, and hopefully I'll get back to you guys when we have something to do when it's not pouring down rain. The thunderstorm would pretty much continue all the way through sunrise and even into part of the late morning as well. And since we weren't sure how the weather was going to affect us throughout the day, work was a bit slower this day, and I didn't film much what we did that day either. Though it would have generally consisted of the same sorts of movements that we would have done the day before, and towards the end of the day here, I was able to catch a couple videos of myself returning towards Willow with the tie crane and a cart full of those crap ties that I had intended to pick up in the morning, though wasn't able to until midway through the day because of the adverse weather. That which we'd quickly learn was about to make a return. Close to 3 o'clock as I was making my return trip, more clouds would start to form over Willow as I'd race them back to the yard trying to get the crap ties back to the pile. Alrighty fellas, coming back to you from the back shop again after just about a day's worth of work. It's about 3 o'clock and we're back at square one. I'm back in the container and it's raining again because those clouds opened up and poured more rain out onto us. However, believe it or not, the sun has come back out now. That's it. Anyways, it's kind of lightened up for the moment at least. I was just about to load 71 more ties to take down to go beyond the mile marker 855 so we could start putting those in. I just offloaded a whole bunch of crap ties before I came up here to get those new ones. And the night crew had to put in more ties last night on top of what we put in yesterday. So, including what we did yesterday and what they put in last night, they did close to 100 ties. And today we put in another 30, and I've got 71 that I have to load from the piles here to take down there to stage for installation probably tomorrow, because this weather is not going to let us work for much longer. Probably all I'm going to be able to do for the rest of today is maybe get those ties loaded. So that right there is our cart full of ties. With the adverse weather today, the night crew said they may or may not be showing up to do work tonight. So if they do show up, they'll take these down and drop them. If not, that'll be my task for first thing tomorrow morning. So, yeah, it wants to rain again. Sun decided to go back into hiding, and the clouds are back. And it's thundering for the third consecutive time today. So, I'm gonna get out of here before I get dumped on again. So, we'll see what happens tomorrow morning. Alright everybody, good morning. It is now Thursday. There was no night crew that showed up last night, so I get to take all these new ties down, but we are regulating the ballast today. And so we kind of have a game plan regarding what's going to go on with these ties, because we have more that we have to put in before the milepost, 855, but we also have old crap ties still sitting down there that I got to go get picked up before we regulate whenever we end up doing that today. So I got to take this bundle of ties down, drop them where they're needed, and pick up the crap ties, get them out of there, and then we should be able to regulate the ballast. So, we'll take a look at the regulator and we'll see what we can get going here. So, just across the yard here, we have our ballast regulator machine. Some history on this piece of equipment. It was built in 1982 for the Southern Pacific Railroad, and it ran on their famous Donner Pass in maintenance of way and snow spreader service before being retired in 1997. Such was just after the absorption of the Southern Pacific by the Union Pacific Railroad, and then the museum would acquire the machine in 2008, and it's been an on and off maintenance of way use here ever since. Though in 2023, it's been almost 3 years since this machine has seen track time at the museum for any maintenance of way services. And part of that is because the running gear on this machine has since gone out, meaning that it can no longer move under its own power. And we've since found out that the cost of making that specific repair would ultimately exceed the cost of buying a whole new machine. But because it retains all of its functionality otherwise, we don't see the need in buying a whole new machine when this one works just fine beyond the fact that it can't move itself. So we have a way around the problem, but first we have to make sure we can actually get the machine to start. Like I said, it's been almost 3 years since this thing has even run, so we'd have to run jumper cables between one of our trucks and the battery on the machine so that we could charge it enough so that it would be able to start the motor. Though Grayson has a bit of a different theory as to why the problems that we're having have since surfaced.
Its problem and why it does this is on the side. It's a shield about this big and it has a flag in it and it says UP. That's the problem.
See what he's talking about, fellas, is right here.
Right here. It's the only thing a Ford can really help start. Trying to catch now.
Yeah, we got it.
By grace of the Ford or not, we were able to get the machine started, and so we were able to now take it off the track it sat on so we could get it ready for the regulation later that day. So to get it off the dead-end track that it sat on, we'd have to bring in a backhoe, link them via a chain, and simply push the machine out. Once we got it past the switch by the shop, we'd be able to line it towards the main line, and so that should give you a bit of an idea of what our solution to the lack of a running gear is here. Most of our pieces of maintenance equipment, as well as the support carts that they can tow around, are connected via pull bars. So each machine and cart will have a hitch mounted on each end. And since we often use our former Navy 44-ton center cab switcher for maintenance duties, we've custom welded a hitch to both ends so that we can tow support carts with the locomotive if necessary. And that custom-made hitch would come in use here. By welding another hitch onto the end of the ballast regulator, we're able to connect the two via another custom-made tow bar. With the tow bar linking the two, we'd be able to move the ballast regulator around using the 44-tonner. And so I'd head out in front of them with the crane to head down to start dropping the new ties that I had first loaded, and to pick up all the remaining crap ties so we could regulate the ballast through as much of the track as possible. I'd make it down to milepost 855 and start dropping new ties right behind the American Track tamper as they were now working in front of us, though pretty shortly they came up right behind me regulating on the first pass of the west side of the tracks. The main purpose of the ballast regulator, as we can see here, is to pull ballast rock back towards the gauge of the track. As you likely saw through the process of changing ties, the roadbed and the rock itself gets torn up pretty badly as we pull ties in and out of the track. So by angling the blades on the respective wings of the ballast regulator, we're able to pull rock back in towards the track as well as shape it to create the proper roadbed structure. Such as you'll see after the wing makes its first pass, that we have a much more uniform slope up to the base of the track. Though they wouldn't be able to regulate all the way to the southernmost point of our completed work because I still had those crap ties to get picked up first. So they'd go as far south as they could before re-angling the wings and blades before making another pass headed back north.
This would ultimately fine-tune the first pass and pull even more rock back towards the roadbed. This is especially important to make sure is done on our track because the amount of ballast rock in many areas is pretty limited. Also on this second pass, the blades are angled in such a way so that when rock is pulled back in, it exits the blades, leaving a sort of shelf of rock behind right along the edge of all the ties. Obviously, there is a reason for this, and we'll see the reason for it fairly shortly, so keep this shelf of rock in the back of your mind for now. By the time that they came down to regulate the west side of the tracks, I had already dropped enough ties along the track that I had caught up with the American track tamper. However, they had also run into an issue with their machine, so they were stuck on the tracks as well. Meaning that even though we had ties marked along the tracks further, I couldn't drop any of them in their respective spots because the American track machine was now in my way. But I still had to get all these ties off so that I could pick up the crap ties to get out of the way so we could regulate later. So I'd just have to take all the remaining ties on the cart and drop them into a trackside pile so I could distribute them properly later on. So I'd spend the next 20 minutes dropping off the new ties into a pile that I could pick up later on, and then I'd be able to start my way back north, picking up as many crap tie pieces as I could along my way back. Because as far as I knew, we were going to regulate the entirety of all the track that we had completed once I was finished. So I just had to take a bit of extra time to make sure that the right-of-way was as clear as possible so that we'd be pulling as much rock back towards the track instead of crap pieces of wood. And here you guys are able to see the many joys that are involved in picking up crap ties. Ultimately, the reason that we replace ties to begin with is because the tie in question is severely corroded or is showing visual signs of failure. And so that often means you're lucky to have the crap tie come out from under the track in one piece. So much more often I end up picking up little strips or blocks of wood rather than whole ties. So eventually there comes a point that you have to park the machine, hop out, and throw the little pieces onto the cart by hand, because it's almost impossible to pick up some of these tiny little things with the clamp itself.
Alright everybody, time check. It is 12:45 p.m. and I've got a nice cart of junk here to take back to the crap tie pile at Willow, which is where they're all going for right now at least. And once I'm able to clear up off the track here, I'll see if they just want to put me in a runaround or if I want to get the ties off the cart first. But either way, I'm going to have to get off the main because we're going to have to come back through with the regulator and the 100 to regulate both this west side as well as the east side and broom everything down to get all the ballast regulated. So that should be an interesting process, but all the crap ties are off the track and all the ties are off. So once I get out of the way here, it's already looking pretty good through the curve here. You can see they regulated all the way through. And we're going to have to do the other side as well as this side again. So once I'm able to get off the track here, I'll get back with you and we'll regulate some ballast. Alrighty folks, that's the case. It's 118. Got all the old ties off and we're ready to head down and regulate the other two sides. So let's get that done.
Now starting on our first pass of the east side of the tracks, just outside of the track gate at Willow, Grayson lowers the left wing of the regulator into the dirt before angling the blades, and we'd pull it all southbound to get all of that rock back in towards the rails. The ties that we're referring to is the pile of crap ties that sit trackside just south of Willow. And we can't regulate the east side through these because they sit so close to the tracks that there physically isn't room for the wing to sit in the ballast, nor is it practical to regulate through here with how many wood pieces sit in the ballast anyway. So we lift the wing out of the way, past the crap tie pile, and we'll put it down on the other side. Once the wing was back down, we would continue the process, being mindful of any obstructions that came up along the way. Though an obstruction that would come up along the way wasn't so expected. And it's occurrences like these that go to show that not every day on the railroad will go as planned.
Well, slightly unforeseen issue. Made it down to this point and we blew a hydraulic hose. So now we have lost just about all the hydraulic fluid in the tank, and this thing is basically dead in the water. So I had to use the backhoe to lift up the wing, and we're gonna chain it to the body so we can keep the wing clear of everything on the ground and to the side so we can get it back to the shop and repair it. Just another day on the railroad, folks.
And just like that, we were done for the day. All of the major appendages on this machine are controlled by hydraulics, and so with this hose blown and a near total loss of fluid, there was nothing left to do but get it back to the shop so we could begin our inspections to see which hose it was that blew. And we would eventually be able to make the repair, though it would mean the machine was ultimately sidelined until at least next week.
Alrighty, fellas. 4 hydraulic hoses later, we found that we ruptured one of the most important hoses on the machine, and we've got to get a new one made, along with a couple of hoses for other equipment. So, this thing is dead in the water until we can get that hose fixed, and that means that even though we wanted to have this done today, that ain't gonna happen. So we're gonna get the hoses made hopefully tonight, but that's basically where we're leaving off today because that's all we had to do and it kind of got shot down. So that said, I'll see y'all on Friday. Alright guys, so that was the MSA charter that just left Willow, and just kind of giving y'all a little update for Friday. There's not a whole lot going on, so there's not really been a whole lot of filming, but we are supposed to get the replacement hose for the ballast regulator at some point today, so hopefully by the end of today we can try and get back down there and regulate. Possibly, I'm not sure. If not, this is where I'll leave y'all off, but for most of today we're just kind of cleaning up. I'm weed eating around the shop, and that's just about the size of it. Johnny boy. If this is all we're doing, then I'll see y'all on Monday, because I do want to get some videos of the rest of that regulation. But if not, I'll get back to you at some point today. If not, I'll see you Monday.
Turns out I'm actually coming back to you guys on Tuesday, June 27th. We would end up getting the hose fixed on Friday, though we wouldn't have time to regulate on Friday or Monday because we would end up doing more tie replacement that would take us the majority of the day. And even on Tuesday, we spent most of the day replacing ties, but by 4 o'clock we decided that we had to get this regulation done, so we hopped on the 44-tonner anyway, and we pulled the ballast regulator back out onto the main line to start regulating the rest of the line, now repaired. We'd make our first and second passes on the east side of the section of track that we hadn't completed last Thursday before we'd be able to make our way south of the runaround and regulate the east side of the tracks all the way down to where the work on the track has ended so far. So we'd stick the wing into the ballast, angle the blades, and take it south. As you can see here, another useful aspect of ballast regulation is that any excess material that can be distributed elsewhere is caught in the bucket of the wing and is pulled down further south as we drag the wing along, and it is gradually distributed along the slope as it is shaped with us dragging the regulator south. That allows for more efficient use of the material that we have, and at the same time we're shaping our slope, which we then redefine as we make our second pass back to the north, back towards the runaround. This will redefine the angle and edge of the slope as well as create that shelf of rock along the edge of the ties, which will then be the next part of the ballast regulation. Once we made it back to about our starting point at the south end of the runaround, we'd lift the wing back up and take the regulator all the way back down to the southernmost point where we stopped, and then we would put the front plow just down above the rails. This apparatus can be used to push ballast away or pull ballast in depending on which way the blades are oriented. And for the way in which we're going to utilize it, we're going to reorient these two blades by flipping them around in reverse so that they effectively face the other direction, so that by pushing it northward we will pull ballast in. And that is the purpose of creating that shelf of rock along the edge of all the ties. As we push the ballast regulator back north with the plow inverted, we pull that shelf of rock towards the center of the track, ultimately throwing as much ballast as possible over the rails and into the center of the track. Now, because our ballast regulator is being pushed by a locomotive and isn't propelling itself, this plow is effectively sitting between the regulator wheels and the locomotive wheels. So any of this rock that isn't quite pushed over the rail entirely will get stuck on top of the rail, and we will end up running that over with the locomotive. And while perhaps a small inconvenience, it doesn't cause any issues for the locomotive or the regulating process. Once we've pulled the shelf of rock in all the way up through the maintenance zone, we'll take the machine all the way back down to the southernmost point for one final northward pass. And this is the final touch. This is where we broom everything down. The broom resides beneath a metal housing on the front of the ballast regulator, and attached to a horizontal axis are a bunch of brushes made up of rubber and composite plastics, and as this axis spins at a rapid rate, the brushes quickly contact the track's surface and kick up any loose material, distributing it more evenly along the track, making it essentially the final beautification process of the ballast regulation. But if you're going to be part of this process, I recommend bringing a mask, because if you're like me and have all sorts of sinus issues, in this area where we haven't had rain in a few days, this is about the dustiest job you can encounter anywhere. All of that dirt and dirty rock being kicked up beneath that metal housing creates giant dust clouds that turn your nostrils black as soon as you breathe it in. But as rough of a set of processes as these may be, the track that it leaves behind is absolutely stunning. Stunning as well as complete. After the final brooming process, this section of track has ultimately been re-timbered, re-spiked, tamped, leveled, aligned, and regulated. And so this section of track is totally complete. So we can move on to the next section of track headed south towards Parrish. And then we get to do all of these processes again, and again, and again, until we get to Parrish. But must I say, damn. It's been a long time since our track has looked this good. And ridden this good too. Even before the track was regulated, Grayson as the engineer on Friday's charter would tell me that the ride difference between the track that has already been tamped and the sections that we haven't made it to yet is night and day. But simply word of mouth for myself and this video just wouldn't quite be enough. And so after another week of track work, I'd have to see for myself what it looked like to see a train ride over this.
Alright, good afternoon folks. It's Saturday, July 1st, 2023, and we're just south of Willow on part of our rehabbed main line. And it is this year's Independence Day weekend, so happy 4th of July to everybody who celebrates it. Since I filmed my last set of update videos on this recent Tuesday, we've actually made it almost another mile in that direction on terms of progress, and we've actually had more ballast regulation done on Thursday, but I haven't really been filming much of that because I've been trying to focus on this northern bit just south of the curve before Willow. And so this is where I'm basically going to end my update video, but I am going to leave it off with a shot of what it looks like to see a train roll over this new rehab track.
We have received some rain here since we first regulated this section, so the residual dirt that sat on most of the track has since been washed away. But what hasn't since changed is the absolutely magnificent track structure. And speaking of such, might it be interesting to note that our entire rail line, built in 1903, turned 120 years old in May of this year. And so, perhaps how ironic it is that in late May, early June of this year, we'd ultimately start our journey on rehabbing our track to bring it back to a condition that is about as close to its glory days as I'd say it's ever been. And riding on top of that track is this Saturday's 2 p.m. Willow Express, being pulled by CF7 locomotive number 204, sporting some American flags atop her cab for the Memorial Day weekend, custom fitted to the locomotive by Grayson and I the previous day. One can never truly feel more accomplished watching a train ride over track until they've been the ones to pour their blood and sweat into the ties and rails they're on. And them rolling down the hill is only a reminder of the 4.5 miles that we still have to complete before this is all over.
Alright folks, thanks for tuning in, but for now, that's going to be all from the Florida Railroad Museum. I'm sure this was a bit of a longer video, but that's what happens when you cover the knickknacks and all the little nuances of railroading that we're so involved in now. So hopefully it was still somewhat enjoyable for y'all, and if you want me to start making more videos like these, since I'm going to be around the museum for the majority of my time, definitely let me know in the comments section, because it'll be a very interesting shift in my content, since I'm not going to be able to be doing as much of what I've been doing over the last number of years, but I'll still get to do that every now and then. And if you would like to support the Florida Railroad Museum, go to our website at frrm.org or give us a phone call at 941-776-0906, and through one of those two options you can make any size of donation, which will support projects like the one that I've showcased in this video and others that you've seen in the past, because without those funds we can't keep these projects going. And the more projects that we're able to complete, the more that I can update and give y'all videos for. So if you're interested, definitely give us some love through either this video or our website or our phone number, because we could use all of those types of support. But for now, from the Florida Railroad Museum, this is Kotabeaner, and whether I see you back out here sometime or somewhere else in the Sunshine State, I'll see you whenever that may be on the Sunshine State Rails.